Lesson 43. God is my source, I cannot see apart from him. Perception is not an attribute of God. His is the realm of knowledge. Yet he has created the Holy Spirit as the mediator between perception and knowledge. Without this link with God, perception would have replaced knowledge forever in your mind. With this link with God, perception will become so changed and purified that it will lead to knowledge. That is its function, as the Holy Spirit sees it. Therefore, that is its function in truth. In God you cannot see. Perception has no function in God and does not exist. Yet in salvation, which is the undoing of what never was, perception has a mighty purpose. Made by the Son of God for an unholy purpose, it must become the means for the restoration of his holiness to his awareness. Perception has no meaning. Yet does the Holy Spirit give it a meaning very close to God's. Healed perception becomes the means by which the Son of God forgives his brother and thus forgives himself. You cannot see apart from God because you cannot be apart from God. Whatever you do in him, because whatever you think with his mind. If vision is real, and it is real to the extent to which it shares the Holy Spirit's purpose, then you cannot see apart from God. 3 5-minute practice periods are required today, one as early and one as late as possible in the day. The third may be undertaken at the most convenient and suitable time that circumstances and readiness permit. At the beginning of these practice periods, repeat the idea for today to yourself with eyes open. Then glance around you for a short time, applying the idea specifically to what you see. 4 or 5 subjects for this phase of the practice period are sufficient. You might say, for example, God is my source. I cannot see this desk apart from him. God is my source. I cannot see that picture apart from him. Although this part of the exercise period should be relatively short, be sure that you select the subjects for this phase of practice indiscriminately, without self-directed inclusion or exclusion. 2 for the second and longer phase, close your eyes, repeat today's idea again, and then let whatever relevant thoughts occur to you add to the idea in your own personal way. Thoughts such as, I see through the eyes of forgiveness. I see the world as blessed. The world can show me myself. I see my own thoughts, which are like God's. Any thought related more or less directly to today's idea is suitable. The thoughts need not bear any obvious relationship to the idea, but they should not be in opposition to it. If you find your mind wandering, if you begin to be aware of thoughts which are clearly out of accord with today's idea, or if you seem to be unable to think of anything, open your eyes, repeat the first phase of the exercise period, and then attempt the second phase again. Do not allow any protracted period to occur in which you become preoccupied with irrelevant thoughts. Return to the first phase of the exercises as often as necessary to prevent this. In applying today's idea in the shorter practice periods, the form may vary according to the circumstances and situations in which you find yourself during the day. When you are with someone else, for example, try to remember to tell him silently, God is my source. I cannot see you apart from him. This form is equally applicable to strangers as it is to those you think are closer to you. In fact, try not to make distinctions of this kind at all. Today's idea should also be applied throughout the day to various situations and events that may occur, particularly to those which seem to distress you in any way. For this purpose, apply the idea in this form. God is my source. I cannot see this apart from him. If no particular subject presents itself to your awareness at the time, merely repeat the idea in its original form. Try today not to allow any long periods of time to slip by without remembering today's idea, and thus remembering your function. Ever wonder if what you're seeing is even real? What if you've never actually seen anything as it is? What if everything you've ever perceived has been filtered through a lens that isn't even yours? Your vision is filtered, but by what? Imagine walking into a store and picking up a pair of sunglasses. Every lens has a tint. Some make the world look brighter, some darker, some distort reality completely. The lesson today suggests that your entire perception of reality is like wearing a pair of tinted lenses. The problem? Those lenses weren't made by God. They were made by the ego, fear, judgment, separation, and the crazy part? You don't even realize you're wearing them. The Holy Spirit, however, offers you a different pair, one that doesn't distort but clarifies. The question is, Which one are you choosing? Perception versus knowledge. What's the difference? There's a reason God doesn't deal in perception. Perception is subjective. It changes, it shifts, it contradicts itself. It's why two people can witness the same event and walk away with completely different stories. But knowledge is absolute. It's the difference between thinking the sun rises and knowing the earth rotates. Knowledge doesn't bend to our opinions, it simply is. The Holy Spirit acts as the bridge between perception, our fragmented view of reality, and knowledge, the absolute truth of God. Our job isn't to argue with reality, it's to allow our perception to be purified so we can see what's always been there. Perception can be used for separation or salvation, your choice. If perception was originally created for an unholy purpose, meaning we used it to separate, judge, and create fear, then it follows that healed perception must be used for the opposite. This is where forgiveness comes in, not the kind of forgiveness that says, I'm better than you, so I'll let this go, but the kind that looks at someone and says, what I thought I saw wasn't even real. The Course calls this seeing through the eyes of forgiveness. It means looking past the illusion of separation and recognizing that what you thought was a grievance was never real in the first place. That's the shift. That's how perception becomes a bridge instead of a barrier. The dirty windshield analogy. Imagine you're driving through the desert and your windshield is covered in dirt. The landscape is still there, majestic mountains, a clear blue sky, but you can't see it because the dirt distorts everything. The windshield is your perception. The Holy Spirit is the one offering you the wipers, but you have to turn them on. And every time you practice today's lesson, God is my source. I cannot see apart from him. It's like hitting the wipers once, clearing a little more of the illusion away so you can finally see what's been in front of you all along. The painter who forgot. He was the painter. Imagine an artist paints an intricate landscape on a huge canvas. He spends years lost in the details, adding trees, rivers, people, entire worlds. One day he gets so absorbed in the painting that he forgets he's the painter. He steps into the canvas, convinced that the world he painted is real. He forgets that outside the canvas there's a whole other reality, one where he is free, not bound by the limitations of the painting. This is what perception does to us. We've stepped into a world of our own making, mistaking it for the only reality. The Holy Spirit's role? To gently remind us that we're the painter. We're not trapped in the illusion, we made it. And if we made it, we can let it go. The broken glass effect. If you take a perfect mirror and smash it into 100 pieces, you'll still see reflections. But they'll be fragmented, distorted. Some might make you look taller, others shorter, some might make you look unrecognizable. This is what happened to vision when we chose perception over knowledge. Instead of seeing through God's perfect unified lens, we see through fragmented, distorted reflections. But here's the thing. Every piece still contains the original image. The Holy Spirit's job is not to fix the broken glass, but to help us realize we don't need to look through shattered fragments anymore. Deeper questions to ponder. What if my perception of someone isn't actually who they are? What would it mean to see without judgment? How would my world change if I stopped seeing through the filter of the past? Can I be willing, just for today, to let go of what I think I see? If perception has no function in God, then what am I really looking at? Final thought. You don't have to believe this lesson for it to work. You just have to practice it, just like you don't have to believe in the gym for a treadmill to improve your endurance. The point is to use the exercise. Let the Holy Spirit take your distorted vision and purify it. Let it become a means for seeing past separation. Today, as you move through the world, try the simple experiment. Tell yourself that what you see is not separate from God. Try it with objects, situations, and especially people, and watch what happens, because maybe, just maybe, the problem was never what you were looking at, but how you were looking.